everyone, just a quick reminder, it is December, and that means every video in December has a chance for you to win a free game. All you have to do to enter is leave a comment on that video for a chance to win. More information in the description. Welcome friends, LostScarf here, and it's time for Star Wars Last Jedi. It's basically going to be a spoiler talk. As far as review goes, I loved it. I really enjoyed the movie. Some people hated it. I don't know how, but that's what the spoiler talk's about, to talk about who liked it, what we thought about it. Like, Jynx'x has also just seen it, so she has different thoughts than I do. Yeah, she liked it, didn't love it. I loved it. After the movie is over, I could have gone back, got a ticket, and saw it again. Like, I could have watched it back to back and I would have been fine. I really liked that movie. People were clapping and cheering in my movie theater. I saw it the day it came out, so I'm just so surprised people have hated it. And I don't know. There are things to nitpick about it, but I'm like, wow. But if you haven't seen it, just go see the movie. Just go see the movie first. There are people who want to boycott this movie after word of mouth, but I'm like, if you really want to boycott something, you should see this one and decide if you want to boycott the 9th one. That's what I think. You should see this one yourself, understand what the hate is about, or what the love is about, and then decide from there. Don't just go on what other people are saying. You got to see it for yourself if you're a fan. If you're not a fan of Star Wars, then fine, you don't have to see it, whatever. I thought it was amazing. So, spoiler talk. And when it comes to spoiler talk, just talk about what you want, but just quickly going over it. I really liked it. I liked a lot of the characters, a lot of things that were going on. But one of the problems with these movies, with The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, is they don't really convey certain information very well. When it came to The Last Jedi, it didn't do a good enough job to establish that this is it, even though they say this is it for the Resistance, this is all we have. Because, like, in The Force Awakens, they destroy the Republic, and that's all destroyed. Be like, wait, that's all, they literally killed all the support of the Resistance? Which is what they did, but even then just did not make that connection that this is all they've got left. And now this entire movie is a chase scene between the First Order and the Resistance, which is going to become the new rebels, I suppose. And when it came to The Force Awakens, the problem was they didn't really well explain what the heck the First Order was. But learning from lore information is that the First Order is actually made up of the old Empire. It's made of the best parts of the Empire. It's just a reshaping of the Empire. And so it's just, this is the Empire, but the best parts of it, and then Snoke shows up and makes it even better because he's Snoke. And that's what makes the First Order such a threat. Yeah, the new canon introduced some information on the First Order, but nothing about Snoke. So Snoke just shows up in the movie while the First Order is covered in the canon. So that's interesting. But it's not conveyed very well in Episode 7, and in Episode 8 it's not conveyed very well either. And trying to talk in order, but totally gonna miss talking about order, is you have Rey and Luke, and she gives Luke the lightsaber, and he just tosses the lightsaber, which is a funny thing that he does. And I like it because it's like Luke's out here on this island for a reason. He doesn't want anything to do with what's going on. He gets his old lightsaber and he tosses it. And he tosses it because he doesn't want to deal with whatever's going on. Like, he just doesn't want to deal with what's going on, and she has to tell him what's happened. And yeah, that's the metaphor, is Luke is tossing out the viewer's expectations, which is a big hint for what happens later on, because Episode 8 is so different from Episode 7, because Episode 8 basically takes the mystery box that J.J. Abrams brought out and threw it away. It just tossed it away. And we get that throughout, where a lot of things just don't meet the expectations the viewers had because there was so much speculation. And I guess we'll talk about this now. J.J. Abrams really blew up when it came to Lost. Like, this is really the Lost effect, where Lost was a big TV show because of just how many mysteries were on there and people wanted to find the answers. And when Lost was over, no one was happy. J.J. Abrams brought that to Episode 7. We had all these mysteries. Who was Rey's parents? What's been going on with Luke? What's with the lightsaber, basically, and Rey's visions with the lightsaber? The Knights of Ren. Who is Snoke? All these different mysteries. And this movie just answers them, but not in a way anyone really liked because it did not meet expectations. But the truth of the matter is, because of the mystery box, expectations are never going to be met. Whatever theories people have, they're never going to meet those theories, and it's going to be hated no matter what. So in the end, what Rian Johnson did with the J.J. Abrams mystery box was like, here's your answers, now let's move on. It's kind of what he did. He just tossed it aside. Because that's not what's important. These big speculations aren't what's important, it's the characters, and it's what they do. That's what's important, and that's what I really like about the movie is we see these characters grow. We see Rey grow as a character, we see Kylo Ren grow, we see Finn grow, we see Poe grow. And we see a new character in Rose who grows in this thing as well. Like, well, not really grows, but we see who Rose is in this movie. And that was the great thing, is we're seeing the new generation have growth in the 8th movie, and it really makes us interested in seeing what's going to happen in the 9th one, because it's wide open what happens in the 9th one. Let's focus on Paige and Rose really quick, because they bookend the movie pretty well. At the start of the movie, we see Paige. She sacrifices herself to bomb the Dreadnought. And there's a lot of focus on Paige. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. They're putting a lot of focus on this person who's going to sacrifice himself to bomb that Dreadnought. That's pretty cool. And then Rose was like, oh, that's why we see so much about Paige, because Rose is going to be a character here. And a lot of people feel like Rose is a throwaway character, but I think she's really important to the story. Rose is there to just show another view of the rebels. Like, we see Poe side of things where he's the hothead kind of guy who becomes the leadership type as it goes. Finn is more of a rogue. Finn is like, he's out for himself. With the help of Rey, Finn learns to not just be out for himself, but with the help of Rose, Finn learns to be something even more than that. Where it's not just what he wants that's important, but just a bigger view of things. And that's how Rose helps him out. Like, Rey is important to Finn's growth, and then Rose is important to Finn's growth. Well, Rey has her own thing going on because of Jedi training, because she's trying to do Jedi training, but also just understanding the Force itself. Yeah, Rey taught Finn to care about friends, and Rose teaches Finn to care about people. Yeah. And what's interesting is, I'm going to see the movie a second time eventually. Like, I'm hopefully this Friday. Rose and Paige inform me about the other character in a way, because Rose and Paige are sisters. They grew up in the same situation. We see Paige willing to sacrifice herself for the Resistance. She struggles very hard to make the bombing happen. And that informs us about who Rose is when it comes to the end, when she's willing to sacrifice herself to save Finn, and all the things that she does. Everything that Rose does basically retroactively tells us about Paige and her motivations for why she's willing to go so far for the Resistance, which is very interesting, which is going to be pretty cool for a second viewing. But Rose puts herself on the line for things that she cares about and things that are important to her, which is very interesting, and I really like Rose's character. I like that we got a new character with Rose, and I liked her a lot. I don't know why people think she's superfluous and doesn't mean anything. I think she's really important. The problem is talking about Finn, is Finn's storyline isn't necessarily important to the plot overall, but it's important to the plot of Finn himself. Finn grows a lot in this movie. He has potentially the most character growth. Actually, all three of them have a lot of character growth. Poe grows a lot. He goes from hothead to leader. Rey goes from just not having a big understanding of the Force to having a lot stronger understanding of the Force, and being basically the new hope of the Jedi, or whatever comes next after the Jedi. And then you have Finn, who is becoming, well, he goes from just being like a kid slave recruit to the Empire to becoming, now he's a rebel. He's a hero of the rebels. But he goes through a lot of just seeing things. Yeah, Finn's side quest was important to Finn. Not really. It was important to the Resistance until, it didn't actually happen. Yeah, I actually hurt everyone else in the universe. Like, what's interesting is we're seeing different views of the rebellion. We're seeing, the Resistance. We're seeing Poe's growth into a leadership role so that he can lead the new Resistance. Or the rebellion, whatever they're going to call it in the 9th movie, whatever they're going to call this new thing, because they're the spark. Finn has grown a lot as a character because he's, even with Rey's help and everything, Finn was willing to just abandon everyone and leave on his own. Because, well, he doesn't. He's not willing to abandon everyone. He wants to protect Rey. That's the thing. He's trying to escape so that Rey will be safe when she tries to come back. If she comes back to this, she's going to get killed. That's how Finn feels about it. So he cares about his friends, but he cares about Rey a lot. Apparently more than Poe in this instance. And he's trying to escape so that Rey doesn't go into a really bad situation. And Rey's growth is very much in Jedi stuff and the Force and everything. So we see the Force side of things, more of the leadership of the Rebel side. We also get to see a grayer side of things because Finn, of course, he ends up on Canabite. And at Cantabite, he gets to see, well, he sees all these people making money off the war. And as not great as Benicio del Toro's character was, because he also was kind of a superfluous character, he was there for Finn's growth as well. He points out, like, oh, hey, look at this. This guy's been selling X-Wings as well. He's been selling TIE fighters and X-Wings and all these other things. He's like, look at that. Both sides are making this guy money. Oh, the character's name is DJ. Apparently, he's never named in the movie, but his name is DJ, aka Don't Join. If that's really what it means, that's perfect. Was his stutter distracting for anyone else? It was a little distracting for me. Like, that's a really interesting choice to make there. My thing was, is he dead or is he alive? I'm wondering that because it's possible he got away because DJ seems like the guy who would find a way away, but he could have died as well in that big explosion. But he was a way to just show Finn just more of just there's a grayer side to things and that it's the big thing that's going on with the story is that's a cycle. Empire, Rebels. First Order, Resistance. That there's always a cycle. It's the Star Wars, after all. There's always going to be two sides fighting in the stars. Just like, of course, with the Trade Federation, which was the Separatists and the Senate. So there's always two sides fighting. There's always wars happening. There's always people making money. And someone's a good guy to someone and someone's a bad guy to someone. And DJ's there to point out this cycle. And everything is pointing out this cycle. Because you have Kylo Ren saying, like, let the past die. Kill the past. And he's basically there to say, he's like, just kill the past. Forget the expectations of 7. Forget the previous movies, kind of, which I think angers some people. It's like, forget all that stuff. We need to move forward with a new direction with Star Wars. And because this is also the death of the Skywalkers, kind of. Because arguably, this is the end of Skywalkers unless Kylo Ren makes a kid. Aside from that, this is the end of the Skywalker line because episodes 1 through 8 and gonna probably 9 as well, because Kylo Ren is so affected by the Skywalker family, and you kind of need to free Star Wars from the Skywalker family so they can do other things. Well, Star Wars is always going to be with the Skywalker family. And when it was announced that Rian Johnson's going to do the new trilogy and it's not going to have the Skywalkers in it, I guess it kind of was a clue that something's going to happen to the Skywalkers in this trilogy. And it's true that they do need to walk away from the Skywalkers, just because you really can't have it only be about them. Everyone does enjoy main characters and rooting for a certain group over and over again, but you got to move on as well if you don't want to be tied down, I think is the way to think about it. Poe had some funny moments, like the humor here. It's interesting talking about the humor. People feel like they've Disneyfied the Star Wars movies with the humor because it's very much like Marvel. And I would argue that, yeah, sometimes the jokes did not feel like they were landing, and some jokes did feel like they were landing for sure. And so it feels like they're definitely playing with that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You have the original trilogy, which was very serious and had a little bit of humor to it. And then you had the prequels, which had a lot more humor to it, but they were very different styles. And now you have the new trilogy. And this new trilogy has its own humor to it as well. And these are made in different decades. These are made in different ages. So the movies do have to grow and evolve with the generations. If we just had them all be the same way as episodes 4 through 6, I don't think Star Wars would be as successful as it is, because there are people who absolutely love the prequels. There are people who love the prequels. Those are their movies, and they think the originals are boring. And we're going to have people who love the new trilogy, and they're going to think the originals are boring, and that the prequels are dumb, or something with the prequels. Like, this is going to be their thing, and the other ones are not going to be as great as this is. And that's perfectly fine as the generations go, because, of course, different visions, different creative ideas and thoughts and everything, that's what's going to happen. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with them breaking the mold with this movie. With episode 8 breaking the mold, I'm just surprised by how many people are so filled with anger and hate because it breaks away so much from what the other ones were. But they've always been departures anyway. The prequels were departures from the original, and 7 was quite a departure from the original, despite the fact everyone thinks it's a retread of A New Hope. It does cover some things that are similar, but there's so much very different about it as well. And you can also argue the same thing for episode 8, it is a lot of episodes 5 and 6 in there. When you really think about it, there is a lot of Empire in here, and there's also a lot of the Return of the Jedi in episode 8. And so by combining all that stuff and mirroring and echoing some of that stuff, and getting all that out of the way, 9 is completely free to be whatever the heck it wants, and I'm very curious what it's going to be. Because J.J. Abrams did 7, Rian Johnson did 8, and J.J. Abrams is coming back for 9. They had a different director for 9, if I remember correctly, and then he got ousted, and now we got J.J. Abrams coming back for it. J.J. Abrams, of course, is the executive producer as well, so his hand is in this thing. So it was also there during Rian Johnson's episode 8. And who knows who had final say on things, and how much arguing there was over this and that, and how much vision was given, how much vision was taken, and things like that. Like, is this movie completely Rian Johnson's vision or not is a question that I don't know if we can ever answer, but it was amazingly well directed. The people act very well in it. The scenes are shot so well, and the story I thought was done pretty well. There are things, though, that you can argue that just feel superfluous. Again, which is Finn's thing, but it's important to his character. It's just, in the overall thing, what did Finn really do is a good question. He didn't really do anything besides grow, which will make him more important in 9, I suppose. The most important thing he contributed was, yeah, the story is important to him and Rose, and that's it. And it could be very important to episode 9. That's the thing. It could be important now. We don't know what 9's going to be about. Finn's growth could be very important for 9. That's for dang sure. One character's growth who has not been all that great, let's talk about a negative, is Phasma. People are saying Phasma's death was worse than Boba Fett. Nothing is worse than Boba Fett's death. He died on accident. Boba Fett died on accident. At least Phasma got knocked out. Like, at least she got rocked. She got punked twice, yeah. At least she had a little fight with Finn. She did not meet her potential, just like Boba Fett did not. All Phasma needed was a scene where she mowed down a bunch of rebels. That's all she needed. She needed a scene half as good as when Vader wrecked all those rebels in Rogue One. If she had a scene where she just killed a bunch of rebels on her own, that would have solidified her as a badass, and then she gets beat by Finn. Yeah, she should have done some real damage to Finn. That would have been great. She doesn't do any real damage to Finn. That's unfortunate. Well, the only damage she did is she thought she got the kill shot on Finn. That's it. And it just could have been better. It could have been better. Another thing is, just as an aside, the amount of hype we got for the evil BB-8, and then it's just there. It was kind of funny to see the thing, but like, we got so much hype for this thing for some weird reason. It's like, it's just there for 2 little scenes. And I still think it should have been named BB-H8, so BB-Hate. Just this little thing, BB-8 was funny. The Porgs were great. So, my understanding of the Porgs is, it was cheaper to edit in the Porgs than it was to edit out the puffins that live on that island. So, the Porgs are basically puffins. That's a funny thing to learn. But when it comes to who's better, Porgs or the Space Nuns? The Space Nuns. The Space Nuns were only there for a little bit, but they're hilarious. I really like the Space Nuns. The Space Nuns were great. And Rey just made their life miserable for a little bit, and that was funny to me. That was an interesting thing, is Rey having a connection to Kylo Ren, and you're asking that question, is what's going on there? Why do they have a connection? That whole thing was very interesting to me, where they're talking to each other. I really like that. And then at least we don't have to take time on that one. We learn what the truth is. Snoke connects them. So Snoke is very powerful. And that's the thing. Snoke is really powerful, but he dies because of his hubris. Because he assumes Kylo Ren isn't trying to kill him. Which is so weird. Because what is the rules of the Sith? The rules of the Sith is there can only be two. So the apprentice is constantly trying to kill his master and take on a new apprentice. It's so weird that Snoke never guesses that Kylo Ren's trying to kill him. That's a good question, though. Is Snoke a Sith? And he kind of is, because he's trying to make Kylo... Or if he's not a Sith, he's using the Sith to his advantage. Which at the same time should be telling Snoke not to trust Kylo Ren. Like, I like that Snoke completely just bitches out Kylo Ren. He's like, why are you wearing that mask? You're not Vader. You didn't earn that mask like Vader did, pretty much. You're basically being a child in a mask, and that's really what he's saying to him. You like the mask? I am destroying the mask, let the past die, kill the past. Now, there's a complaint about... Now, here's my thing is... Mark Hamill didn't like the way Luke was written. And what I don't know about that is, and this is all speculation, is whether or not Mark Hamill was able to convince Rian Johnson to make some changes to Luke to a point that he was happy with Luke, or whether or not this is still the same Luke that Rian Johnson wrote. Because Mark Hamill said, regardless, he'll do it like a professional. He'll be a professional and play the character. But I feel like Mark Hamill played the crap out of Luke. Like, really, he played the crap out of Luke. Like, I really enjoyed this Luke. Like, he's just older. He's a bit more cynical. Like, life has crapped on him a little bit after what happened. Yeah, because, Luke is now a broken legend. Luke's at the point where he's like, legends aren't really a thing. Because Luke was this big legend and everything, and Luke is a big part of just... Luke is someone to look up to, and now Luke is not exactly someone to look up to. At least at first, because Luke at the end is definitely a dude to look up to. He is a dude that they could deify if they want, considering what he does. But when you get old curmudgeon Luke, who's cut himself off from the Force, and he's just... I don't know, at the same time I feel like he's still really being Luke, where Luke, everything Luke does is based on what he understands of what the Force is and what the Jedi were, and he is very much a dramatic kind of guy. Luke tries to save his father because he believes there's still good in a man that has killed literally thousands of people with his own hand, and that's a very dramatic thing. So when Luke wants to go burn the text and everything, that's Luke being very dramatic as always. Luke has always been a bit of a dramatic, as far as I can tell. And so... I don't know, I think it still fits him pretty well. Even that final bit with Luke and Kylo Ren, he's being very dramatic there as well. And so I think it fits him pretty well. I think the one part that angers everyone is Luke giving in to the belief that Kylo Ren would go dark and tries to kill Kylo Ren, even for a split second. Because he's like, for one moment I considered it and felt great shame. I'm like, that's something, and I feel like that's a believable thing because he's seeing darkness he hasn't seen in a long time. And that's the thing as well, is Luke for a moment feels like maybe he should kill him, and there's nothing wrong with that, because Luke isn't a pure guy. We also have, in the original trilogy, Luke rage attacks his father at points. Like, Luke isn't a pure saint. He is very much... the closest we're ever going to get to a Grey Jedi anyway. But Luke is never formally he's trained a bit, but he's not completely formally trained. It takes years of training, right? And he doesn't get that. Luke does the best he can. He figures out the best he can. And let's not forget, Yoda points out, he's like, hey, you didn't even read the books anyway. And Luke's like, well, I was gonna read them, you know? Luke hasn't even read the dang text. He's been there. He's deified the text, and he hasn't even read the dang things. And so Luke has done the best he can with what he's done, but he's still thinking about the ideals of what they are. Yeah, that's the thing, is Rey had the text, right? Like, Luke didn't even know that the texts weren't in there anymore. Which is even better, is because Yoda's kind of a son of a bitch. is Yoda blew up the tree, knowing full well that the texts aren't in there, just for more dramatic effect at Luke. It's like, how the texts are actually still in existence, so it's fine. I really like the Yoda scene, and I think that Yoda scene is such a character growth point for even Luke. Like, Luke grows in this movie, and that's why I hope he shows up as a Force Ghost in 9. I really hope he does. Just as a little bit of guiding light for Rey, just like how um, Obi-Wan and Yoda were still a little bit of guiding light for Luke a little bit. I'm hoping there's that with Luke in 9. Yoda points out that the point of the Master, of course, is to teach and to be surpassed, and to teach them not only how to succeed, but to learn from their failures for more success. It's just being a benchmark and a way to go past. It's kind of just like how the Sith are. Except you don't kill your master to go beyond them. You just get stronger than your master. You learn to go. You learn to go further than your master did, in enlightenment and in learning things. You don't. You just don't literally kill your master like the Sith do. And so Rey's meant to go beyond Luke. And so I hope Luke still at least guides a little bit. Though Luke drinking that milk was a bit much. But Mark Hamill really sold that scene. That scene was so weird in a way, though. Yeah, just milking this dude, and just drinks it right in front of Rey. But it was interesting seeing Luke's day to day on the island, and just who Luke is, and that he's still doing things. He's just a hermit now, and hermit's hermit. That's what they do. But the thing is, he's being dramatic by doing what he's doing. He's being dramatic again. He's on this island on his own, cut off from the Force. That's a very dramatic thing to do, because he failed this one time. That did, of course, get a lot of things screwed over, but it takes him literally years and Yoda to talk to him for him to get over his mistake and learn from it. For him to do his big thing at the end of the movie, which is probably one of my favorite parts. It might be my favorite part, is Luke versus Kylo Ren. I think that's my favorite part. Thinking about it, it's my favorite part. It is definitely, that entire sequence is my favorite part. For one small moment, my favorite part is definitely before that, is the moment. I don't know what else to call it besides the moment, because that is the moment. Because that shot of the dreadnought split in twain should be a screensaver. That should be a desktop icon. That is such a cool shot. That should be a poster. That is such a cool shot. And just the build up to that moment was so cool, where you've got Rey and Kylo Ren fighting with the lightsaber, and you have, of course, the rebels with the resistance trying to survive, getting blasted at, and just boom. I knew that was coming when she took the controls. I'm like, oh, she's gonna ram them. What I did not realize is how she was going to ram them. That was so cool. I thought she was just gonna distract them by getting in their face. I did not see that coming. But the second they said her engines are powering, I was like, oh, Jynx'x has a human shield. Yeah, I thought she was gonna distract him or something. But no, boom! Like, oh, that is so cool. And lightsaber gets broken in two, and Rey gets both pieces. And just completely skipping Snoke's death and everything. And things that people really hated. People hate that Rey's just a child of Junkers. That Snoke is just some dude, and we don't really get to learn who Snoke is. We don't get to learn that whether he's Plagueis or whatever thing. We don't get, like, all these theories just don't get met. And it's kind of, this feeds into another thing with Luke. He's like, the Force is for everyone. It's not just for a chosen few. It's for everybody. The Force is everywhere. It's in everything. It's just that some people can control it. And it's them also saying it's not just the Skywalkers to control. It's not just the Skywalkers to be the legends, is another way to put it. It's not just for the Skywalkers. And you've got Rey, who's just the child of Junkers, who just got enslaved. And let's not forget A bit of Force knowledge Snoke dropped. What? I forgot about that. Snoke's like, okay, we got Kylo Ren. I expected the light to come up. I assumed Luke is what he says, but it's Rey. And that's interesting that he assumed Luke when Luke's the master. So you'd figure Luke is the counterpart to Snoke, which is exactly what he is. And then Rey shows up. And yeah, it's a Force balance thing. The Force is constantly doing some balance things. And that's also the origin of Anakin, by the way, is the Force balancing itself as Anakin. But Rey is just the child of Junkers who sold her for drinking money. Luke is just a farm boy who happens to be the son of Darth Vader. And if you consider that still a thing, then let's not forget what Anakin is. Anakin was literally a slave. He's the son of a slave woman, and he's a virgin birth. That's all he is. You had to go into the lore for why Anakin's a virgin birth, because it's explained, but he's just a very powerful person with the Force. Rey is just a powerful person with the Force. Kylo Ren's just a powerful person. Like, this bloodline is pretty strong, and Rey's just another strong person. And there's always these strong people powerful in the Force, because considering Skywalker's not the only OP people, like, you got Mace Windu, he was OP as heck. Yoda was pretty OP for his time. You got Darth Sidious. There's always been a lot of really powerful people. It's not like it's only been the Skywalkers who've been powerful. It's just that the Skywalker bloodline has been at the center of the Star Wars for so long. That's all it has been. And it can still, like I said earlier, it can still continue with Kylo Ren if he decides to have kids. Now, my thing was, when they kill Snoke, and Kylo Ren wants Rey to join him, I'm like, I don't think she's gonna turn. Like, they're gonna stay on a separate ends because it's gotta be light versus dark, or just two sides to balance things out. But I'm like, I feel like all he had to say was be his queen. Like, if he just said, Rey, be my queen, she's like, she might consider that. But he never says that. He's like, yeah, you don't think that's enough? Like, Rey's looking for a place to be. I'm just saying that as a joke, but the more interesting theory, I can't remember who said it, me or Jynx'x, is all you have to say is, I'll spare the resistance if you join me. And that would have been interesting for 9. It would have been interesting for 9 is if Rey was willing to join Kylo to save her friends. That would have been an interesting setup for 9. But we don't get that. We get, of course, what we got. But people are really convinced Rey will join the dark side, and I don't think she will at this point. I think they're both set in stone. At this point, it's up to Rey to turn Kylo. I don't really see anything turning Rey to the dark side at this point, unless I don't know what Finn could do to really do it. I don't know what Poe could do. I like that they have Poe and Rey meet, because they actually haven't really met yet. They finally have their meet. But really, what happens with Rey really hinges on Finn, because she's so attached to Finn. But honestly, we could have basically the Ahsoka situation all over again from the Clone Wars, depending on whether Rey thinks that Jedi shouldn't have kids. Because the whole thing where Jedis don't have kids. Although Luke had a kid. Not Luke, Anakin had a kid. Oh, I completely forgot about Leia. People were mad about Leia's survival, which is a weird thing to be mad about. Jynx'x is like, Leia's got knocked away too far when she force pulled herself back in. Like, yeah, she is pretty far away. It was pretty grand how she force pulls herself back to safety from space. But it also kind of is like, well, this is how badass she is. It would have been even bigger with smaller. Even better if this was Carrie Fisher's idea. She's like, look, I'm so badass I can force push my way back in. The thing is, people forget that. Here's the thing. They showed in 7 and in 8, before Leia got blasted, that she is sensing people with the Force. She knew when Han died. She felt it. She could feel when Han died. In 8, she can feel her brother. She has Force sensitivity. In the old canon, Luke trained her in the lightsaber. Luke trained her to be a Jedi in the old canon. She just never uses it because she's more of a diplomat and a gun lady. But she does have force sensitivity. In this, we finally get to see her actually use it. It just looks so weird when she does. But I'm like, holy crap, it's kind of cool that she survived doing that. It just really sucks Admiral Akbar died, though. Because Admiral Akbar is Admiral Akbar. What I found interesting was Carrie Fisher's dead. They had their out. They had a means to have her out of the story that was already filmed with Carrie Fisher. They could have just reshot everything after that point. But they didn't. They kept the movie as is. So I'm really curious what they're going to do with Leia in episode 9. But they had an out if they wanted one because of the fact that she just gets shot out. And we have that moment where Kylo Ren's like, is he going to kill his own mother or not? And he can't do it, but his men do it for him anyway. So he does that really cool corkscrew attack and just basically screws over Poe's ability to defend and kills a bunch of people. Like, we saw what looked like we're going to see some new pilots that are going to be in the movie. It's like, oh, this is going to be cool. And then they get killed. Like, oh, okay, they're gone. I don't know what's going to happen with Leia. I really don't. But it was pretty cool to see Leia use Force. It was just cool to see it. But yeah, it could have been toned down, I suppose. Like, the movie did things in a grand way. It did a lot of things big, and in some ways could have been done better small. And I know the biggest weakness is Canobite's considered the biggest weakness because it feels like it's what made them. Like, the argument is the movie's too long, and I feel like people are feeling that because Canobite just didn't feel so great to them because Finn's story is just such a side story. But it's also important because it sets up for that whole spark and just the other generations, because we see that one kid on Canto Bight in the final shot of the movie. We said that the kid's force sensitive and that the kid believes in the resistance. And he looks up at the stars just like how Luke looked up at the stars. And that's pretty good. And Luke's final shot. Like, let's talk about the final scene with Luke. Luke versus Kylo Ren. Luke showing up is the coolest freaking scene. He shows up, they shoot at him, they do nothing. They shoot at him a lot more. They do nothing to him. It's like, oh, that is so cool. What's going on here? And I thought he was a Force ghost or something. Like, I'm like, he's either hit the next level or he's a Force ghost is what I thought. And then Kylo Ren comes down and they're fighting. And Poe's like, oh, he's stalling. What the hell's wrong with us? We need to get out of here. Because Luke isn't fighting, he's not attacking, he's just dodging. It's like, oh, that's why he's dodging, he's stalling for us, so we gotta get out. And you get the other reason why he's dodging, and thankfully Poe realizes he's stalling because he can't actually do a lightsaber fight because he's not actually there. And that was so cool, because until we see Luke on the island, even when Kylo Ren went through him, I thought he was still a Force ghost or something. Because I thought he was just doing an Obi-Wan. Because it's like, you take me out in anger, I'm going to be with you forever. And he goes right through him like, holy crap, he's still there. Like, he pulled an Obi-Wan, right? He just pulled an Obi-Wan, right? And he's like, no, he's just not even there. He's on the island. He's just really powerful for a moment. Like, he's really in tune. And I just like his final line is, see you around, kid. Like, I like that. Because he goes Force Ghost. And his final shot is so good because it's also kind of his first, it's not his first shot, but it's his final grand shot is his first grand shot. And that is the farm boy looking up at the two suns. And that is so cool. Like, there are a couple bookends in this movie. You have Luke bookending his end with his start. And you also have Paige and Rose bookending as well. Yeah, it's a nice touch. It's really well shot. It's so good. A setting sun and a rising sun. Yeah. It's so good. Really good visuals. Just amazing visuals. Like, there are things to nitpick in this movie, but for me, the overall positives just overtake all the negatives and make it such a good movie to me. And it's why I could watch it again right after I finished watching it. But I really liked Luke's send-off. I liked it a lot, and if they bring him back as a Force Ghost, I don't think it'll lessen it at all. It was cool seeing Yoda and Obi-Wan and all that. I'm totally gonna see it again, hopefully this Friday. I want to see it again. I saw it on the premiere, I want to see it again already. I want to see it with family because I saw it alone. But it's just so good. Like I've watched episode 7 at this point maybe 30 times. And I want to see episode 8 that many times as well. I really like 7, I really like 8. People feel like these two are clashes, that the two clash. They don't mix so that you'll like one and not the other. I love them both. I really like them both. I don't know why 7 got the hate it got, and I don't know why 8's getting hate. Well, I understand to an extent why people hate these movies, but I think they're wrong. That's what I think. I think y'all's wrong. That's what I think. I think these are good movies. I think these are great movies. The story's progressing. The story is growing. It is becoming something more. It is becoming something on its own. And it's great. I really like it. And so I can't wait to see what 9 is. Although I don't really my concern is it's J.J. Abrams again. J.J. Abrams was the perfect man for 7 because of his mystery box. J.J. Abrams is perfect for starting things out because he's good at making a lot of speculation, but he's not good at finishing things. The answer to his speculation aren't very great because J.J. Abrams himself doesn't even care what the answer is. And he's said that on many accounts. He doesn't care about the answers to his questions. He just cares about creating the questions because the speculation's so much fun. And so that's why I'm not a big fan of what might happen with 9. But at the same time, because it's the end of the trilogy, he can't make a lot of mystery boxes. So we'll see what he does with 9. He's the importance of what Rose does to save Finn. Yeah, she sacrifices herself to save him. She essentially, basically, almost dies or does die because we don't know if she's going to make it because they don't really have a lot of medical stuff. Let's see what Jynx'x is saying now. Kylo Ren wants to break the past, kill the past to break the cycle. Except he's continuing the cycle by being the new Emperor, basically. Rose wants to stop killing out of hate and instead save what you love to break the cycle. So yeah, we got two different directions. Introducing, you have Kylo Ren for one and Rose for the other. Well, Rey is there as well. She's pushing forward Jedi things, and we'll see what Rey does. Like, the thing I don't know. I just really, there's gonna be kind of a, I don't know if there will be or there won't be. This is the thing is, there might not be a triangle at all. Like, Finn might not see Rose the same way that Rose sees him, and that could just completely kill that off. Or there could be a triangle, and we might have an Ahsoka moment again. Because if you saw Clone Wars with Ahsoka, I already treaded this a minute ago, didn't I? But just, will there be a love triangle or not? Will Rey be like, no, Jedi aren't supposed to have feelings or not, or what with that? Will Finn have feelings towards things? And who knows? Who knows what 9's going to be? I don't know. There could be, and he might not even have feeling for Rose. He might just feel obligation to Rose because she was willing to sacrifice herself for Finn. Will Rey read the books? I think Rey will actually read the books. Yeah, will she get to the no attachment part? Well, this is the thing, is Luke's a legend. So Rey has heard the legends. She's heard the legends of the rebels, of Han and Luke and Leia. She's heard about their stories. The question is, how much of their legend does she know, and how much of the legend actually gets passed down? And yeah, is there going to be a new Jedi Order, or the Jedi done, and it's just going to be a new, just Force user thing? And some of them have lightsabers, or what is the question here? Like, I'm wondering how 9's gonna end. It's possible that 9 ends with, look, just talking about just only Kylo and Rey. It ends with them killing each other, or them just both dying in some way. It ends with them getting together, because why not? Or it ends with them going their separate ways after some epic battle. And then maybe Kylo Ren becomes a hermit, or he has kids or whatever to continue the Skywalker line. Well, the solo Skywalker line. And maybe Rey could have kids, or she goes and becomes the new teacher of just Force people. She just goes and finds people with the Force and teaches them and stuff like that. Or maybe Kylo does that. It depends on whether Kylo gets redeemed. It depends on what happens with Rey as well. Because it's fully possible that maybe Rey just becomes a parent And maybe Kylo becomes a parent. Maybe they mellow out. Who knows? It's wide open. 9 is wide open. And the way 9 ends is wide open as well. So who knows what's going to happen. Kylo and Rey both die as metaphor for the Force being released to the universe. Yeah, that's the thing. They're both extremely powerful entities. Apparently, they're both very strong with the Force. Kylo is supposed to be, of course, dark, and Rey's supposed to be light. And there's always supposed to be a balance. And it could be both of them dying, and then the Force is just for everyone, and it's up to the Force to figure things out. There are people who want there to be no more Jedis. They want to be there's just Force-sensitive people, but there's no more lightsabers, or maybe there's still lightsabers, just not as many. It's just people trying to understand the Force and figure things out with the Force, but they don't have the old religions of the Force, like the Jedi and the Sith. Because the Jedi and the Sith have their own understandings of the Force, but we saw Luke having his own understanding of the Force, and his argument that the Jedi need to end and that the Force belongs to everybody. So arguably, Rey learning from Luke has already started the path towards a new kind of Jedi way or a new Force way. It's naturally unbalancing. That's the thing about the Force, is the Force kind of just chooses a select few in a way. It's interesting. Where the Force kind of has the Force is trying to balance itself by giving power. It's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. What's going on with the Force? Because the Force kind of is an entity at the same time. It's kind of like the argument of a self-writing timeline. The Force is trying to write itself just like timelines are supposed to write themselves in time travel stories. Is there anything not mentioned is a question, right? I'd still like to know what happened to Ahsoka. Although I haven't seen Rebels, so maybe she dies in that? I don't know. I have not seen Rebels, so I don't know what happened to her. Force mentioned to serve as the new stewards. Oh, talking about Clone Wars stuff. That'd be such a deep cut to go back to Clone Wars. That'd be such a deep cut. Oh, the Praetorian Guards, the red suit guys. That fight was pretty cool. It was interesting seeing how kind of rough that fight was. Where Kylo's like he's grabbing guys and moving around and hitting them and everything. Apparently, those guards are supposed to be the Knights of Ren, or at least that's what magazines were saying they were. They were the Knights of Ren, so they were supposed to be the rest of Luke's students. Then isn't that the Knights of Ren? Or are those Snoke's guys? Like didn't Luke say he kept some of the students and he killed the rest? Yeah, the Red Guards have been a thing though for a while. Like the Red Guards were there for Sidious as well, so they might not be the Knights of Ren. They might just be Red Guards that Snoke has had. But seeing that fight was pretty cool, and that they had lightsaber resistant armor that wasn't completely resistant, but it was enough to give some trouble. Yeah, that's true. Just make them the guards. But it was still cool to see them fight and have the different ideas for weapons they had. They're giving Rey trouble. They gave Kylo some trouble, but in the end they beat them. And it was cool to see Kylo and Rey kind of just care about each other when they were having those fights. That was pretty cool. There are 7 Knights of Ren counting Kylo. From the flashbacks, there's 7 Knights of Ren counting. Oh yeah, I forgot about that flashback from 7. They fought more than 6 guys. Yeah, they fought more than 6 guys, didn't they? Yeah. We'd have to double check the count, but I'm pretty sure they fought more than 6. There was a point I'm like, geez, how many of these guys did Snoke have? It is unfortunate Snoke dying. It is perfectly possible Snoke wasn't even a lightsaber person. He might have just been really strong in the Force in other ways. Because that is one of the annoyances with people is, does everything really have to be settled through lightsabers? Shouldn't it also be settled in other ways? And it's possible Snoke's not even a lightsaber guy, that he just has really strong Force. Because we saw how strong he was. He was moving people around. Considering how far away he was more than Yoda. More Yoda than Yoda got to be in terms of fighting. Yoda summoning lightning, by the way. Yoda summoning lightning. But also Snoke with the ability to connect Rey and Kylo from so far away was very interesting. But yeah, I think that's everything. So that is spoiler talk for The Last Jedi. I'm really curious what will happen in the next one. Theories for the next one. Well, Poe's going to be the new leader of the Resistance, especially with Leia dying off. The question is, what's going to happen? Maybe Leia, she dies off camera. Or they have a message with her just leaving it to. There's no way Leia would leave it to anyone else to do the job. She would try to lead in some way so she has to get killed off. Because I don't see Leia retiring and leaving out to Poe. So either they have Leia lead through comms or something, or they kill her off. Because I don't think anyone wants her to get CG'd. People really don't want her to get CG'd. So I think it's gonna have to be off camera stuff, or she just dies. When it comes to her, Poe's gonna be a big leader. I don't see Poe dying. I could see Finn. No, I don't think Finn's gonna die. I think I could see Rose sacrificing herself for good. For some cause. I don't see Finn dying. If anyone survives this whole thing, it's gonna be Finn. He's gonna be the one that survives because he's already tried to sacrifice himself and he got stopped. Like, unless he's sacrificing himself for some big thing, maybe, I see Finn making out his thing. And he might be one of the remnants of 9 for the next trilogy. Like, I assume some of these people are going to be remnants for the next trilogy. And I'd say maybe Finn will be a remnant. If anything, at least Finn. That's if the next trilogy takes place after this trilogy. If they're going to make it 10, 11, 12, or they're just going to make it its own trilogy. Rey and Kylo Ren, I think they're going to go the separate ways and continue the Force. That's what I think they're going to do. I just don't know if Kylo's just going to be this evil hermit or if he's going to be a redeemed. And if Rey's going to be like a nun Jedi or something. But I think they're going to survive. But it's not going to be Rey and Finn. I think they're just going to survive and they go their own way and do their own thing. Poe's the one that might die, but he might also survive to be the leader post 9. We might see. I want to see Luke Force Ghost for sure. At least at the end, for some reason, just to cheer on Rey. Or just to say good job or something like that. Or even Luke Force Ghosting for Kylo. If he turns, if Kylo redeems. Just like, well, there you go, kid. You did it. That would be interesting as well. But Kylo is the big bad now. I could see Hux making a power play against Kylo. There's no way Hux is not going to make a power play against Kylo at some point. I can't see any other way there. I do think the Empire needs at least one new character. And I don't think Phasma's dead. I think she's going to come back to be at least one more threat. And hopefully she does something. Or she stays dead. But if she comes back, she's going to actually do something before she gets killed. At least that's what I think will happen with Phasma. Is there anyone else? Rose will be there. And there'll probably be new characters. I think that's the entire cast. Who knows what 9's gonna really be though? I don't know. I think even when we get the title of episode 9, we'll have no idea. But everything's gotta come to a head in some way. And I don't know what, like, the First Order is pretty strong. And we gotta see the spark of the rebellion. I assume the next one's gonna take place a little bit after the rebellion gets sparked. But again, who knows? But that right there is spoiler talk for episode 8, The Last Jedi. And what did you think? And just your thoughts on the things we talked about or things we just did not cover because didn't think about it. One thing is I enjoyed about BB-8 was the dude using it as a slot machine, and that they paid attention to that, and every time you heard him bounce around, you heard the coins bouncing around until he finally shot him out later on. It was a nice attention to detail. But here you go. That right there is the video. I had fun talking with, watching, and listening. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.